goal is to bring you your next favorite band.
Sweet, that intro is my new favorite band. That's phenomenal. I'm so excited to be on.
Yeah. I heard a rumor that you might be able to play that song live today.
You heard correctly. Yes.
Excellent. So,
Good enough for Robin.
I don't know when I rock out here on your next favorite band and show.
and listen, it's going to be everybody's favorite band.
Phil, you weren't supposed to make me get all... God almighty,
But this
Phil.
is why we do it.
Like, seriously. I gotta gather myself. All right, go ahead.
Okay.
Welcome to your next favorite band. That's both the show title and our promise to you. We here at Stereophilia Studio are tireless in our pursuit of finding incredible, genre-defiant artists who are either a hot up-and-coming band or a group that has been delivering for years but have flown under the radar.
Tonight, we talk about WXPN's 885 Greatest Songs of the 21st Century with Dan Drago of 25 O'Clock Pod and Nate Runkel of Yo, That's My Jawn.
Each month, we will bring you live streams, audio podcasts, and perhaps even a live concert where you can listen to the stories and hear the music of artists personally curated by us based on what we feel will be worthy of your time. Be sure to subscribe and tune in to each episode because the possibilities are endless and you never know who will be
Your next favorite band.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Philip Reese.
And I'm Dan Drago. Oh, we did it weird.
No, and I'm Nate Runkel.
And you are listening to
Your
Next.
favorite.
band. Look at us.
Nice.
Sort of
And
did it.
we kind of didn't even practice that.
No.
No, and no one would ever know that.
Right?
How would you know?
We seemed like we were so on the money. But we are thrilled to be able to doing this once again. We did this last year. WXPN, for those of you who probably know, and if you may not, and you're just tuning in because you like one of the three of us, or two, or possibly all three. Every year they do a call to the listenership by saying, hey, give us your top 10 in some category. Last year was the greatest songs by women. This year is the greatest songs of the 21st century. And they compile whatever those top 10 lists are. Everyone gets one submission. They aren't allowed to stuff the ballot box. And then they basically, if you list something as number one, it gets 10 points. Number two gets 9, and so on down the line. And then they just tally that. They compile it all, and they put out a list of 885 songs. If you're wondering why that number, it's their frequency is 88.5. And it's a really fun thing. It's a really fun exercise. And then so last year, us three knuckleheads got together and talked about our top 10 lists and what was on the list. And so we were like, let's run that back. It was fun.
It was. Last year we knew the number one. It had just ended. It ended like
Correct.
2 hours before we then went on. And I think that was our original plan this year. But as we all know, you try to get 3 people, not even into a room, but a virtual room together.
And also, I think their side too, like depending on the length of songs and so on, like they don't even necessarily know when it's going to end until they compile the full list.
Yeah, I think last year ended on a Tuesday, I think.
Correct.
Also.
Yeah, we did this on a Tuesday.
Earlier in the week, much easier than later.
Right. It is, let's not forget, a holiday season. Whoop-de-doo. And the problem with that is also tomorrow night is Fantastic Cat down at World Cafe Live, so I couldn't do tomorrow night after the list would be done. It will finish tomorrow. I'm sure we're going to need some form of epilogue. But for tonight, we do have, I think it's almost 135 are left. So we have from 885 to 136, I think is where it stopped today.
127. There was a problem with the feed.
That's what it was. Okay.
Updating. No, the last song that played 127 was Jigsaw Falling Into Place by Radiohead.
Yes.
And that was Radiohead.
And doesn't that put them into number one as far as total tracks?
That's exactly right.
Wow.
It's an interesting one to hit so high. I guess post-millennium Radiohead is a very interesting, because once you get past Kid A and Amnesiac, I think a lot of people just like, do they keep making records? It's like, yes, probably as many records then as they had made before.
Sure.
But yeah.
and still just as good, just wildly different.
Yes.
That's what I loved about their whole catalog was each one was an evolution on the previous one. And so if you listen to like the first album and the last album, you're like, what the? And then if you actually take it one album at a time, you're like, oh, I see how you got here.
Guys, I'm known as the positive guy, and I'm already going to start this off with my first negative comment. But I like my Radiohead with guitars. And they seem to forget them as the albums go on. And that's how I will leave that.
Yeah.
No,
Well, so
they go back and forth. Like there's guitars. Like In Rainbows is largely a guitar record.
right.
Hail the Thief is largely a guitar record.
We
Yeah.
as people know, the band There is a tribute band to Radiohead. They do a phenomenal job, and I was able to do a behind the scenes. We called it behind the sound of how they achieved the Radiohead sound, and in that kind of evolution, when talking with the band, we talked about how Johnny Greenwood is the least guitar-friendly guitarist of all time. Like, he just happens to pick that instrument, but he wishes it could have been something else, probably.
Absolutely.
Great.
But it is true. So, kind of getting to the list, we because we know we'll probably go long because we're three podcasters who like to talk. So we'll let's normally we have some front end banter. We'll leave that as being the majority of it, and we'll use this as a way to kind of stay right on point. Radiohead is the top band of number of tracks total so far. They were high on my list, and actually the one on number 2 for me isn't even in that gaggle of songs yet. So my hope is even they have one more at least left, and it's up there. But we can get into that in a second. But the overall list here, let's bring it up. Let's share the WXPN page.
Yeah.
And so WXPN.org, we go in here, and we can come into the playlist. This is where you can kind of just look at everything.
Everything that up to the so already right here there's something I want to talk about, and I brought it up on the socials. So in the 131 and 130 slot we have MGMT with Electric Feel and MGMT with Kids. Those 2 singles came out seemingly simultaneously in the early aughts, and I had to call it out. I was like, is this a never happened in the countdown situation again where an artist occupies 2 consecutive slots?
I know it happened last year. I know
there is another. I want to say maybe the Avett Brothers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's just and those 2 songs are off the same record, and they're off like sort of the formative record of that band, the record that introduced us to MGMT. I definitely remember that year because I was touring a lot, and that record was huge. Like every bar you went into play, every club you went into play, someone was spinning that MGMT record.
Right.
I think I heard it
like
so
on
much.
the put a $5 into the jukebox, the digital jukebox. Yeah.
It took me years to determine if I even liked it or not, because it was just so ubiquitous. You just couldn't do anything about it.
Right, you couldn't get away.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to jump. Let's start from the back end. Jokes are there.
What was the first one? Golden Age. Nice.
Yeah, so 885 Golden Age TV on the radio off of the album Dear Science. So yeah, I'm just going to kind of like what Dan, what you just did is kind of what I figured we could start with. This is just our commentary portion. If you see a song you want to talk about or call out or whatever, just feel free to do it. But the funny part too was like we're in a phase right now, probably this whole day, where it's nothing but bangers, and tomorrow obviously even more so.
Yeah.
Where I can't really argue with anybody's selection. Earlier on, I'm like, wait, what? Somebody picked that as the top 20. Anyway, so it's just fun though to see what people picked. Like I just find this to be fascinating exercise in like just the human experiment, really.
Yeah.
I was trying to look for the back-to-back. It wasn't the Avett Brothers. And now that I'm thinking about it, it wasn't Lord, but I want to say it was someone like that. Like
Okay.
it was very,
I'm going to hope we
should come
it.
across it because I think it was day 1 that it happened.
Like I'm loving to see things like Kamasi Washington. Like
I love that it's immediately preceded by Lateralis, which is like I was in the car when they I think Kristen played Schism or something like that. I was just like, I have never heard this song on WXPN before.
Right.
Like And that's what I like about these countdowns too. And I have a little inside information because I know a few of the jocks there who say like, "Oh yeah, we have to load the system up with all these songs that we've never played before, and then after the countdown, they have to do a major purge out of the system as well because there's just all these songs that are just like we're never playing Schism again."
Right. Here's Spoon. That was your number one song, not this
first,
particular track, but
I think Spoon, another one who showed up a lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, shout out to Amanda in the chat there. It was Kanye West with the back-to-back.
Oh,
when was this?
That?
Was this already on this list?
Here, I'll bring it up
628 and 629.
We'll get there.
Oh, interesting.
Thank you,
so
Amanda.
it already happened on this list. I was curious if it had ever happened before.
No, I'm pretty sure it happened last year too.
Outside of the millennial countdown.
Also loving Low Cut Connie, I think has 5 tracks on it so far.
Heartless Bastards right there. That Parted Ways track is fantastic.
Oh, I love Heartless Bastards.
A really kind of unsung band of sort of the mid first couple decades of the 21st century. I saw them play at the North Star Bar. It was outstanding.
How about this back-to-back Arcade Fire, The National?
And Doves, there we go.
Hosier is a weird one to have so many tracks on it too. How many did they have? Like 11?
10 or 11. 10.
Hosier has more tracks on this countdown than I know Hosier songs.
I actually did question out loud. I didn't know he had 10 songs. And I'll stop being a Hosier hater right there. Or that
I'm not even hating. I feel washed.
It's over, yeah.
I missed it.
Amethyst Kia, love seeing that.
Yeah.
Wilco, that's your number one, Nate.
That is
not
true.
Not this track, but
have you guys tracked at all how many former guests you've had that have appeared on the
that's a
countdown?
cool one. I mean, I don't really play in this world, but
I do. I didn't do that. Has Hopalong hit the charts at all?
I believe so. I think
great.
they actually played today, maybe.
Yeah, and I've had members of Low Cut Connie's band on the show. I mean, that he's been around for a long time, and he's had a lot of different players in his group, and so I've been fortunate enough to have people like, like I can't even name them all right now, but I've had a handful of people that have all played with Adam at one point or another.
Yeah.
Thanks for reminding me, because that adds another one. Yeah, because
Will Donnelly and 2 other members of the band have announced they're going to leave the band.
That's right, Abby and Linwood.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know Abby's got a record coming out, which will be super exciting.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and also, unfortunately, you can't see it because we're sharing the tab that we're on here. But I have the Low Cut Connie image behind me here. I'll point that out when we have the camera back on. So this is an interesting, totally different pivot. Rather than guests you've had on the show, I've had a run of guests I wish I had on the show who I go to research and find out they've passed away. Sadly.
Oh no.
And so Justin Townes Earl, I've been loving his music. And I'm like, I would love to bring this guy on. What an amazing blues.
I'm sorry you just learned of that.
I would say in the last year I found his music, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, he's passed. And I felt so sad.
Very tragic. Very tragic. A very as good as his father. Different kinds of writers, but very very much. It's just like, like a Jacob and Bob Dylan or something like that. But like 2 different guys, each one can hold their own. And it's tricky to, I imagine, grow up under the shadow of someone like a Steve Earle or something like that. But he was an amazing writer. He was closer to our age, so like I think I enjoyed elements of Justin a little more than Steve. But like, I was very, very sad to learn that Justin had passed.
Unbelievable. Also, somebody got the all caps going here in this section of the list. But I did want to applaud the audience as well. I mean, Beyonce has showed up great. Kendrick Lamar has showed up great. I just think it's also making sure that we have that kind of, well represented, diverse listing of what's the greatest songs of the 21st century.
One of my favorite things that has happened this entire countdown is what you just mentioned, how much Kendrick Lamar is on this list. Is actually
because he is
7.
Amazing, insane.
But not just that. Not just Kendrick Lamar being on here 7 times, 8 if you count Freedom with Beyonce, which I don't think counts under his name. But no Drake, which is
that's even better.
It just makes it burn. And they played Not Like Us.
Unless Drake's really going to go for it tomorrow. We're going to get 5 Drake
all of a sudden,
tomorrow.
Talk about 2 in a row.
1 through 5. Drake.
8 in a row, yeah.
But it's just it's really funny to me, culturally, and it's not really a surprise, but it's just it feels like a nail in the coffin of that debate period.
But also on the Kendrick tip, early on in the earlier part of the countdown, Kamasi Washington, a recognized largely as a jazz musician.
Yep.
And very cool that it ends up on this list, because
Correct.
Kamasi and a whole lot of other West Coast cats are part of those, Kendrick records that people love so much.
Right, and I even feel like Kamasi's a little bit of his own genre. Like,
Kamasi's out there, yeah.
yeah, it's like, is that jazz? Is that what? You know what? It's just Kamasi.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good though. Like, it's so good to just throw on and like 3 p.m, cleaning the house or sipping on a nice coffee in front of the fire. It's just great music.
There we go, Vampire Weekend right in there, who
Yep.
had a big showing so
big
far.
run this week so far. Yeah.
I don't know if you went past it yet or not, but one of the things that happened pretty early in this countdown that I didn't even think about putting on my list, and I've been beating myself up, and I want to publicly flog myself for, is the fact that I forgot Let It Go from Frozen.
We did. We passed it already.
I cannot believe I did not. From the second I heard that song, I was obsessed with it.
I just think that is cool, though. Like, yes, it should be on a list like this.
Much like that, there's some Hamilton songs on here, which not my thing, but it's cool to see, like, musical theater making an appearance on
1000%.
the 885.
I'm going to get into that a little bit later. So bit of a teaser there. Decemberists showed up strong too. How many they got? I think they got like 9 on the list.
They got 9.
Yeah. I was having this discussion. I threw it in the text between the three of us, where Phil, you had said, "I'm surprised Vampire Weekend has played so prominently," and I think I said they've been making record critic bait since 2008.
Critic bait, I think, is a great phrase. We need to get trending.
And the Decemberists have been doing it since 2002. So, like, it makes a lot of sense. And again, both those bands, I'm like 50 to 75% in the tank for those bands. They're not I don't dislike them. They're not like my favorite bands in the world. But between those two bands, they don't have bad records. They don't make bad records. Like, every record that Vampire Weekend has put out is solid. Every record that the Decemberists have put out is solid. There are certain ones that, fans might prefer over the others. But like, I've never heard a record from either of those bands where I'm just like, oh, okay, I think they might be done.
Sure. Yeah. Here's Hamilton 577, and also Alone by The Cure came out like 8 minutes ago, and it's already on the list. But I tell you what, I absolutely love that track.
There are 28 songs. That was 2003. 29 songs on this list from 2024.
Wow.
And
really?
I have this, like, I've always kind of rejected the Hall of Fame, the Rock Hall of Fame's 25-year thing.
Sure.
But I think there should be at least like a 1-year moratorium.
Well, I think in the case of this countdown is that you already had a pretty finite window to get songs anyway. We're talking literally just the last 24 years.
Right.
And we can speak to that too, because like we all represent slightly different age points in the year 2000 going on. And since I'm the youngest one of the three of us, in the year 2000, I was 20 years old and I was still forming. Like, my music brain was still
1000%. Absolutely. Well, here's also at 510, This Tornado Loves You, Neko Case. That's the one I'm going to ask you to dive more into. So it's a little bit of, again, like a little teaser for people. We're going to spend some time with the couple of tracks on each one of our top 10 lists.
Yep. MJ Lenderman just went by. That record came out 6 seconds
Oh my God.
ago.
Yes. It's really good, but it's a little hard to, like, to this point to evaluate that compared to, again, Radioheads and Rainbows or something else is like a little bit impossible.
There we go. Mannequin Pussy. Yes.
Nice.
Another Philly band.
I kind of expect this to be higher, actually.
Me too.
This particular track.
Yeah, and
so
that's a big one for them.
Right.
Yeah. And then you've got just go down a little bit right there. You've got your XPN classics right there. You got Bruce in here.
Yep.
Yes. A lot of Bruce.
A lot of Chili Peppers, which is interesting because I consider post-millennium Chili Peppers to be largely terrible.
Crappy, yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of, impressively average on there.
Yeah.
So we're about at the halfway point here.
There's Tibetan Pop Stars right there by Hopalong. Again, not one. I love that record, but that's their first record. They were still kind of not a baby band, but they were still forming at that point.
We're at the halfway point here, and I want to bring in a special guest, a surprise guest.
Ooh.
From WXPN, John Vatisse.
John!
What's up?
Welcome to the show. You're down at Milk Boy, right?
I am. Can y'all hear me properly?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm at the We're from Antarctica gigs. So
very cool.
We're from Antarctica, the Verns, and not the Verns, the Vaughns. and two other bands.
Very cool.
So I'm just between sets right now. And very apropos that you talked about Tibetan pop stars, which was on my list.
Oh, nice.
And also Manic and Pussy, which I didn't see which MP song it was, but Drunk 2 was on my list. So yeah.
So I actually have your top 10 list right here if you want to chat about it.
Oh, there we go. Hell yeah. Where should we begin?
Wherever you'd like.
Can
Is
I
this
take-
in order? Is this 1 through 10?
So Robin's Dancing on My Own, yes, it's indeed my number one.
Okay.
It's a great song. I love it. Maureen, my wife, and I saw Robin on the Body Talk tour, which I think kind of catapulted her to like a new level of renown. Like she was like in the 90s, she was like a pop singer of many pop singers. What's known as like the person who kind of hung out with Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and stuff. And then she started releasing this really cool left to center pop in like the late 90s, early 2000s. And her set of EPs, the Body Talk set, is like really made her like created the Robin Renaissance. And we saw her.
The Robinaissance.
The Robinaissance. Oh my goodness. So because it was a 3-chapter thing, it was volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. They played Philly. Robin and her band played Philly 3 times on that run over a year and a half. So we saw her at the TLA, we saw her at the Trocadero, and we saw her ultimately at the Electric Factory. Now Franklin Music Hall, and sold out show at the Franklin Music Hall. But the show at the TLA was maybe like, TLA is like what, like about 800, 1,000 capacity.
Sure.
There's maybe like a 150 crowd there. Like it was a very small crowd, and I was kind of surprised. But she gave it, like every single one of the performances, she gave it her all. And Dancing My Own in particular, that's the song where it kind of clicked for me, like, oh no, this isn't just like a pop star who's still making music. This is a pop star who's still making music like at the top of her day.
Yeah,
I also
let me
love
bring it
the
in
way-
here. Let
Oh,
me
hell
share
yeah.
it with people. Yeah, let's play some Robin.
But I do
Yeah.
love this Robin song, and I do love Tibetan pop stars, and I do love Drunk 2, and I do love All My Friends and Miss Jackson. And I forget what else I put on.
Here it is.
Carly Rae.
Oh, here we
man.
go. Oh, Zero.
Great.
I went running to that record yesterday. Anthems for a 17-year-old girl, or an anthem singular for a 17-year-old girl. So I listened to. Are y'all Broken Social Scene fans or no?
Yeah.
Dan, that was Dan, right?
Yeah.
I knew that was it.
Growing up so close to Canada, I'm contractually obligated to be.
Right. But so I didn't get into Broken Social Scene until the record after this one. I think it was self-titled, and the one that had Shoreline on it. And then I really, really got into them on the Forgive This Rock record album. But the You Forgotten People, which is like this, it's gone off to be the critical favorite, like the cult favorite. It's the record that they did the 20th anniversary tour for a couple of years ago. Like that's the one that like seems to be like, oh shit, this is the Broken Social Scene record that people really love. And to me, when I was like 25 and listening to them, I was like, this is just weird on me pop that doesn't. It's not really hooking me, and I'm not sure about it. And it took me until the next record where it had like, oh, there's this, like solid rock song in here, where I really like kind of like leaned into them. But seeing them on that anniversary tour for that album, they played Beat, it was just like everyone knows all of these songs like word for word and are singing along at the top of their lungs. And like that song in particular, Amy Milan from Stars was in town. And
Sure.
like meeting up with the tour, but she got to sing that song like she sings it on the record, and it was just like spectacular. And I think that made me realize, in retrospect, like how huge that song is. Like as far as like picking one Broken Social Scene song, and I think that song was covered in the movie soundtrack. Oh my God, what's that movie? I saw the TV Glow. Somebody did a really good cover of that.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And
I'm sorry,
John,
I'm rambling.
No, you're doing great.
That's why
this
you're
is
here.
this is exactly what an episode like this is about. But here's the thing:
Hell yeah.
you're actually going to provide us a perfect transition and segue. You ready for this? Your number 10, Wilco, Impossible Germany, is actually Nate's number 1.
Nice.
So we're going to
Okay.
actually pivot to Nate's list. You're welcome to hang on if you'd like.
Yeah, sure.
But I wanted to just take a moment here because I know you may need to jump as soon as the next set starts. Thank you so much for joining tonight. Thank you so much for all
for asking me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for all that XPN does. This is such a wonderful thing. And
Before we jump off that,
Yeah.
put John's list up again real
You got
quick.
it.
John, were you out when school photos took place, the updated photos, or were you taking them?
Well,
What happened?
I got an updated photo. I did not like my updated photo, so I need to get an updated photo.
You need
I have
3.0 Matisse.
I'm very insecure. I know it's like short-haired me and not bearded me, so like people look at that and it's like, dude, you're bearded, you have gray hair in your beard. What the hell? So yes, I need to update my photo. It will happen in 2025.
Okay. My other thought was, did you take the class photo? Like,
No. My coworker page here. I think I'll take that. Talented flower. She did all of you.
they look great.
Very cool. Very cool. Thanks again, John.
Thanks,
Of course.
John.
Thank you for having me. The second band just started, so I'm gonna say cheers, guys.
Perfect
Bye,
timing
Nate.
then. We'll see you. All right. So let's do this as perfect here. Nate,
Yeah, man.
here's your top 10. Maybe go from 10 to 1. Don't spend a ton of time because, we're going to dive into a couple here.
Right.
But like finish it. Anything you want to kind of sprinkle in on some of the ones we're not going to touch on.
Yep.
And then land us at number 1 and we'll bring that song in.
Okay, so we'll start at 10. Elton John, I Want Love, from Songs from the West Coast. Late in life, Elton, it's pretty much just him and a piano album. But I mean, there's obviously other instrumentation and all. I Want Love, you might remember, was pretty big. It had a video starring one actor who couldn't get much work. His name was Robert Downey Jr. The pre-Iron Man,
Right.
we can't insure this guy.
Right. Still
and it's-
questionable. Are we going to blow a couple $1 million on this guy?
Exactly. And it's like
Emphasis
a
on
one-take
blow.
video, like a steady cam shot. It's phenomenal. And I absolutely have always loved that song. Miss Sweeney by Weezer is the greatest post-Pinkerton Weezer song that they have done. And I might even argue it's better than anything on Pinkerton. It might be their best song. You catch me on a good day, I'll argue that. Any other day, I'll be like, no, you're right. I'm full hyperbole. Blessings by Chance the Rapper, featuring Ty Dolla $ign, Anderson .Paak, BJ the Chicago Kid, Rory, and Jamila Woods.
Love Chance.
Blessings is off of his second album. And one of the main reasons I put it on this list, first of all, I'm not a religious person at all by any means, but every once in a while I'll hear like a religious themed song that'll overtake me because music is my religion, fall into the cliche. But the very first time I heard Blessings, I couldn't turn it off, and I heard it on WXPN. So it had to go to this list. Next one, Never Fight a Man with a Perm by Idols. Idols is one of the most exciting bands of the 21st century to me.
Great. You want to do yourself a favor? Go look up the tiny desk of that song. It's like comically amazing. Like
that's
you're
exactly
like laughing
and
smashing into a wall at the same time. Love it.
Yeah, my wife gets mad when it comes on because she knows I'm about to punch my chest repeatedly. Like it just takes over.
It is. It's just amazing. It really. There's someone who is like, it's almost performance art. It's really beautiful.
I was. You can't see it. I was this close to getting them on the podcast this year. I'm not giving up. The next, another I was very close on getting on the podcast. The Best,
Love this
Expert
song
in a
too.
Dying Field, from the album Expert in a Dying Field. It was my favorite song in 2023. Probably my favorite 2022. I can't remember. Time's a flash.
Whatever.
Anyway, the year it came out, 2022. Expert in a Dying Field. It has some of the most beautiful lines in it that I've ever heard. And the second that it came on in the countdown, because this one actually charted so far, I was about to take my dogs out. I had them harnessed out. I went to open the door and the cord started. I threw their leashes on the ground and I turned around and I started dancing around my house like a lunatic. And if you ask, maybe I'll post it on Instagram. I took a picture of their faces as they are both looking at me like a complete asshole for not taking them outside.
We should have had it here.
I should have said
we can skip 5 and 4. We're going to talk about them later.
Yes.
So 3. Greatest
3, The
Mistake.
Greatest Mistake by Handsome Boy Modeling School, featuring North Wales' own John Oates
Right, I
and
was gonna
Jamie
say,
Cullum.
yeah.
Yes, we all know that John Oates is my North Star. He's the one guy who I
He's
want
your
on the
white
show.
whale.
He is my white whale.
I'm not
Again,
calling him fat. I just mean it's
again,
Moby Dick
multiple times. I have almost, yeah, let's set something up. You're in the press pool and da 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 da, and it falls through. Whatever.
It'll
But
happen.
Greatest Mistake is a beautiful song on that
Yes.
album. So check that out. One other quick side note: John Oates. I may have told this on here. I tell everybody this, but I met him one time. I used to work at Sam Goody, and he came in, and I was showing him around the store. And as he was leaving, he stopped, turned around, and he was like, "Oh, before I leave, I forgot why I came in here. Do you have the new Outkast CD?" And I went, I said, what? And he said, Outkast. And I was like, Andre and Big Boy Outkast? He was like, yeah. So I sold John Oates Speaker Box, A Love Below.
That's fantastic.
And my number 2 pick on here is my pal Nicole Atkins with Maybe Tonight, which is just one of those songs that absolutely consumes me. I like it. It earned its place as number 2. It showed up on the countdown in one of my favorite blocks that occurred. Because like it also had the AVETs in there and stuff, and she actually helped put the AVETs on early on, so it was all very kismet. But yeah, shout out to Nicole. Maybe Tonight, fantastic. And then of course number 1, Impossible Germany.
Yeah, so let's bring in this track. So here is Impossible Germany by Wilco.
I have a live version of this of Jeff Tweedy solo acoustic that I recorded.
It's funny too with this song. I think if you took out all the rest of the song and just left in Nels Cline's guitar solo in the middle, it would still make number 1.
Yes.
And the whole beginning of that tune right there is the first time I heard that song, I was just like, oh, Wilco has entered its television marquee moon period right now. Just
So much.
two clean, chiming Stratocasters. It was like, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
I kind of checked out from Wilco for a while until this song came out and I heard the guitar work and I'm like, oh, because I mean, ever since Jay Bennett had left the band, I just found I didn't think they had the same oomph, the same creativity that they had before. And then with the addition of Nels and this particular song, I was like, oh, okay, they're going to be a guitar band now. Okay, I'm in.
Sure.
Yeah, the Sky Blue Sky is actually my favorite Wilco album, and it's weird for me to have a favorite album from an artist that far into their career. But
Sure.
This is to me when they locked in with what has become the current lineup, the longest lineup of Wilco, and it's solely my love for Nels Cline knows no bounds.
And also, like this, so let me even, this will be a weird one, but I think it's because of the years that this type of band came out. I love Wilco when I hear it, but I don't really know them all that well. So I didn't really know this track. And then it's on your list. It's on John Vatise's list. I'm pretty sure it's on Bruce's list. Like this particular track, not just a song by them, but this one. And so this must be just one of those ones that just absolutely grabs your brain and doesn't let go.
I will, you know, when you submitted your ballot, they asked you to give a short description of your number 1.
Sure.
And I saved what I wrote because I knew we were doing this, and I wanted to. So
I love it.
Yeah,
I wish I had done the same,
note.
but you,
Yeah.
because I know I wrote something really funny for my top, and I didn't save it.
I have no memory of what I wrote.
So this is going to explain to you how much I am in the bag for this song.
In the bag. I love it.
Beyond the parameters of the 21st century, Impossible Germany is quite possibly my favorite song ever recorded. From the start of Jeff Tweedy's plane of lyrics meditating on the fundamental problem we all need to face, that no one is listening, something that I truly believe to be the single greatest poison of our time, to the explosive Nels Cline solo that culminates in the most beautiful guitar-harmony resolution in its climax, there is not a moment wasted in the 5 minutes and 57 seconds of this showcase track from Sky Blue Sky. If you believe, as I do, that everyone has a song that is coded to their soul that consumes and controls them like a marionette, then this is that song for me.
We need to clip this off with that playing in the background.
Wow. That's your Rolling Stone audition right there.
I was trying to get my Chuck Klosterman on.
There you go.
That's fantastic. Well, this is the solo. This is the beginning of that solo.
He really builds it well as the. I'm not the sole guitar player in the group, but I think I might be the more choppier of guitar player. I've never actually seen Nate play. Nate could play circles around me for all I know.
Can.
Okay.
I'm a rhythm guy.
The way he moves in right here, Nels is such a unique musical mind. And again, it's clean, but it's off the wall. It's completely out of left field. And then when it culminates into that harmonized section, it has the meanderingness of the Dead, but it actually gets to where it needs to get. So it's not unlike Dead in the Studio, actually.
Right.
And that's the beautiful thing about this song. You also have to remember too that like post Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, like they basically like scorched the earth right there. Like what could they possibly do after that?
No, you're
and
absolutely
Ghost is Born was kind of like, okay, I guess this is what they sound like now. And then when this record came out, I was like, okay, all right, they're back.
Yeah, I love that you say guitarmony.
Guitarmony.
That was Nate's. That was Nate's.
Yes. It's chaos into harmony. It's everything I ever want in a song. And you mentioned the biggest part about it is that there is a payoff. Like I cannot take a song that builds and builds and builds and does not resolve satisfyingly. And the payoff in this, like, is I'm like, it's orgasmic to me. Like I remember the first time I saw them at
But it might be tantric. It's not exactly like gross or anything.
You didn't see my pants. The first time I saw them perform this was during the Sky Blue Sky tour at the Tower Theater. And I literally, going into it, said to my friend, do not look at me during the solo of Impossible Germany because I'm going to cry.
Sure.
And in the middle of the solo, he looked over and he was like, holy fuck, you're crying. And I was like, I told you not to look at me. Like,
no, but I think that actually that's like the beauty of the music, of the live music is that exact, point is even when you know it's coming and it's going to just floor you, you're so looking forward to it. Please floor me. Like, it's just amazing. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for your list. We're going to dive in a little bit to a couple other tracks that we found interesting, but let's move over to Dan's top 10 list.
Oh boy, here we go.
Nice.
All right.
We're going 10 to 1 and skip over
sprinkle
in a little bit.
Full disclosure, and I said this last year too, my number one is solid. Everything else are the other 9 songs that I picked.
I like it.
So we're starting at number 10 is Luna with a song called Black Postcards from their album Romantica. Probably my favorite Luna record of all time. I see you, Nate. Luna is a band fronted by a guy named Dean Wareham, who fronted a very seminal band called Galaxy 500. I've been a Luna fan for a long, long time. The Grandpa Boy tune. Grandpa Boy was a side project of Paul Westerberg, Mr. Replacements, Paul Westerberg.
Right.
I have said this many times, and people get mad at me. I am more of a Westerberg guy than I am a Replacements guy. I think Westerberg's solo records are superior in so many ways. Grandpa Boy was a kind of basement recorded thing that he did. It's less than 40 minutes. It came in as a double disc with his album, with the Paul Westerberg album Stereo, and Eyes Like Sparks. If I had to pick one song off the record, which I can't do,
but you
Eyes
did.
Like Sparks. It's got all that feeling that you want from a Paul Westerberg song. It's a little sloppy. It's a little janky. The lyrics are 100% hard on your sleeve. I think one of the truly greatest songwriters of our generation. Parquet Courts. That record came out in 2012. If you look at the years, I put the years on mine on purpose. There's not a lot post 09 that I really would have marked as like my be all end all tunes. But Parquet Courts was a band that I discovered post the age of 30, where I was like, oh my God, I think I'm in love with this band like I'm 17 again.
Yeah, I didn't know them. And so I created a Spotify playlist with all of our 30 songs, and this one definitely jumped out at me. I was really a big fan of it, so I'm going to dive deeper into the Parquet Courts.
They're a band that every time I'm listening to them, I think to myself, I'm like, this is the coolest band that ever existed. Like, they're so cool. They don't care, like, in the greatest way. It's this ultimate, like, stripped down post-punk thing. I don't know. They just work for me. And their frontman's put out a couple of solo records as well that I think are fantastic. We'll skip Ted Leo because we're going to talk about Ted Leo.
Yep.
Fortet is, I think, the only electronic thing that, outside of the electronic albums of hip hop and stuff that we pick, but Fortet is a straight up instrumental electronic group. And there was a record that came out in 2003 called Rounds. And I remember exactly
that was like
where
a super instrumental one, right?
It's an electronic record, but he pieces it together with samples of acoustic instruments, sort of like he didn't invent that, but like he definitely used it to unique result. And I remember when Rounds came out, I remember exactly where I was sitting. I was sitting in the studio at WCVF in Fredonia, New York, and we heard the beginning of that record, and I turned to my buddy Jim, and I was just like, this is like the first time I heard Massive Attack. You know, it was that level. I was just like, we were just, and my buddy Jim was a huge electronic music fan. We just looked at each other, and again, the thing I say constantly, we just look at each other like, I didn't know you could do that.
Sure.
Skip Neko Case, because we're going to talk about that. If again, just like Luna or Grandpa Boy picking one low song is
was a big fan. That was another one I didn't know. I really enjoyed that one as well.
Originally from Duluth, Minnesota. Just recently, the co-founding member and Alan Sparhawk's wife, Mimi, passed away. She was their drummer. Very, very cool, minimal drums, like think Mo Tucker and Velvet Underground type of drums right there. And When I Go Deaf is a songwriter saying, well, when I go deaf, life will be easier because I won't have to write songs anymore, and I won't have to, do all these things that like drive me crazy. And it builds into this amazing, large, cascading guitar part. I've been fortunate enough to see it live multiple times. It's incredibly loud. For a band called Low, they can be incredibly loud.
Yes. Loudly low.
Yeah. My one hip hop track on there, Aesop Rock is probably my all-time favorite hip hop artist of all time. I said it twice on purpose. His 2001 record, Labor Days. I remember I got back in the day when we used to raid each other's hard drives for like records that we never heard. I pulled this off of my brother. He had maybe 2 or 3 Aesop Rock records, including, I think the one at the time was called Bazooka Tooth, which I absolutely love as well. But I listened to Labor Days, and just, he's so sharp. He's so biting. And at the time, I was 21 or 22 at the time that I probably heard this record. I'd never heard anything like it. I'd never heard hip hop like that. I'd never heard lyrics like that. And it was life changing. And as I am a quasi socialist, any song that takes labor down a peg, I'm all for. My number 2, there's my that would be my number 2 actually. Hopalong would be my true number 2.
Nice.
Texas Funeral from their 2015 album Painted Shut. I think the best record they've ever made. They made excellent records following, but that's the one for me. And again, that one came out in 2015. I was 35 when that came out.
Right.
And again, listen to it being like, wow, I didn't think I could fall in love with a band again the same way that you do when you're a young person. And they're from Philly, and I was fortunate enough to have Joe Reinhardt, their guitar player, on my show early on. Really, it was a great conversation. I love the dude. I still love seeing him out in the world. And it was the beginning for me for 25 o'clock, feeling like I think I might be slightly legitimate. Like if I could have a guy like Joe Reinhardt, from a band like Hopalong in 2015 agrees to be on my show, then I'm like, okay, I might have something going on.
You're onto something. Absolutely. Yeah. And then your number 1, Spoon, Finer Feelings. Let's bring that one in here, and then, then you can talk about it. We'll bring it down after a few seconds.
This comes creeping down my back. Somehow this place tastes just like an attack. 100-yard stare of a kiss.
I love Spoon. Another one I found later on, so not off of this list, but was not in the pocket for them, similar to Wilco actually. But when other people were like, you should like this band, and I listened to it, I'm like, yes, I should.
Hold on, I wrote notes. I've been a Spoon guy since I first heard a random song. It was like a random video I saw for a song off an early record of theirs called Telefono. I think the song was called Not Turning Off. Just a wild, frenetic song. And I loved it, and I loved Brit, and I loved the band. And then like later they would put out a record called Girls Can Tell that was incredibly formative to me. Gimme Fiction was huge. And then this record, Ga 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 Ga. You got to get 5 Ga's in there. You got to do it right.
4 wouldn't be enough. 6, a bridge too far.
5. It's a good number.
Yeah.
It's why they number things in appetizers in fives, so you can't split them evenly amongst a four top. But this is without a doubt my favorite Spoon record. And this was an era in 2007. A lot of like the scruffy indie bands of the late 90s and early aughts were really starting to clean up and tighten up sound, very glossy sounding records. Spoon does not do that. Spoon this whole record sounds very scruffy, kind of rumpled, very real. It's a real sounding record. It proves that they are, for a period of their career, they were the best at producing themselves. No one else could have done it.
Correct.
And
they're going for a sound that it's up here. You can't explain it to somebody.
Yeah, it's the closest thing I can put, and it shares nothing stylistically or aesthetically, but it's like a Motown record. It's in the room. It's putting people together. They wrote a good song, and this is the performance right here. And they'll tinker with it a little bit, but overall, this is the tune. And Spoon, with this record going forward, it started sort of I believe, a trajectory where every record that comes out after this, I'm just like, how is this the best record they've ever made? Like, and it makes no sense. And like, when you think about the trajectory of a band, you're just like, it's not even fair. Like, the record after this one was great, and the one after that was great too. Even up to last year's Lucifer on the Sofa, which I heard it, and I was just like, how is this the best thing they've ever done?
Yeah. Like, I mean, I just think there's this constant like peak of their powers kind of explanation to things where it's like, they're just magicians. They're just like absolute virtuosos. All of them. I'm not saying Spoon. I'm saying all of them. Like, when they just are just absolutely using these instruments in such a way that just creates a sound that just grabs you, and it's just like, so like, again, it's like, here's my money.
Yeah.
I want you to do nothing but more of that.
Yeah.
Whether it's recorded or live, I'm going to go and consume all of it.
Yeah. And that particular song, I've talked a lot about the record, but like that particular song, Finer Feelings, is probably not just one of my favorite songs of the new millennium, but probably one of my favorite songs of all time, because I think it very poetically addresses what it is to be a struggling musician. But there's no romanticism in it. Sure. There's not even really a story. Like, that's not how Britt writes songs. He's very impressionistic. He's very evocative. He's got these very real lines amidst these lines where you're just like, I have no idea what he's talking about. But like, my favorite, like, he has a very real line in the song, which he says, I was part-time at the Tasty Prawn, that moving furniture and cutting lawns, smelling like newsprint, staying up real late, just holding out for some fate. And if that's not the most accurate depiction of what it is to like be in a band and work a whole bunch of crap jobs just so that you have the freedom to go out at night and just hold out for something cool to happen. The chorus is great because I think it's sort of a really good up yours, and sort of ends the indie dichotomy of well, are you real or are you a sellout? Because he says, sometimes I think that I'll find a love, one that's going to change my heart. I'll find it in commercial appeal, and then this heartache will get chased away. And I was like, he's saying like, look, I want to do this. I want to write these songs. This is what I feel in my heart. And if I get it in commercial appeal, then like, there we go. Like, I'll be happy. But the line that he has too, this is the last I'll talk about the lyrics because it's pretty much half the song. But he has one of the greatest lines that I've ever thought about, the greatest line ever written about songwriting, which is he says, I was dreaming in the driver's seat when the right words just came to me and all my finer feelings came up. And that's where you get the title from. And to me, that is, in my opinion, the most accurate way to describe songwriting. Is you are half asleep and something happens and you realize, oh, that was me the whole time. That's how I feel. The first time I heard that line, I mean, I don't know if that's what he meant when he wrote it, but the first time I heard the line, I absolutely understood it. Like,
sure.
So yeah,
absolutely.
Me and Finer Feelings. Yep.
Can we go back to something you said during your breakdown there, which is this appetizers and numbers, digits of 5? You just blew my fucking mind, man.
5 or 3, man. It's not an accident.
You just blew my mind.
What's the most common table arrangement in a restaurant? A 2-top or a 4-top? So give them a 5 or give them a 3. So they got to order 2.
That's crazy.
I love it. I also want to point out the
ahead.
chat. We've got some great chat going on. Nicole Mount says, great shirt, Phil. I'm wearing the Philly Music Fest Our Genre is Philly shirt, which is also very...
You just reminded me.
WXPN. Are you wearing that too?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I just realized it's not it. I changed my shirt.
All right, then take your shirt off. Let's go,
I
Bear.
changed
And
my
then, but you are getting Bruce. Bruce is tuning in, and he says, "Nice hat, Nate."
Bruce literally just saw this hat when we recorded it about an hour ago. So he's been
Yes,
holding
you
on to
have
that
the.
hat comment.
You were doing Too Old, Too New. People should check that out.
That's right.
Yep.
I hear that's a good podcast.
It is. I'm
But no,
hearing it.
Spoon currently with 8 songs right now on the countdown. And like I gotta say, like that's one of the surprises, one of the many surprises of this countdown is just how much well-deserved respect the listenership has shown them in their ballots.
Sure.
But I don't think they're done.
How many for the Avett brothers so far?
They are at 6.
Okay,
Not
so
bad. Not too shabby.
that's a decent transition to my list. And the other part about this is you mentioned how like that song we were just listening to talks about how like the difficulties of the music industry. My number 10 actually is that as well. I love this song. Not only again, what I find about how we always talk about you need like some sort of rule or guideline to be able to limit it down to 10. Where I started with obviously was it has to be a banger of a song, but then secondly it kind of had to have some kind of a meaning or some sort of a little bit thing that transcended just the song. And so here Carver Commodore has the song If Nothing Happens, amazing song. To me it's probably their best one they've ever come out with, but it's about basically the lyric goes, if nothing happens, I'll be fine. And it's like they putting all their heart and all of their effort and all their resources and sacrificing a ton. They all have young kids and they're touring and they're like, what if nothing happens? What if we put all this in there and we don't get a career? I guess I'll be fine. And so it's just like a really fun thing. Great song there. Accidentals, Bulletproof Glass. Accidentals are just one of the most beautiful songwriters around. It's Sav Madigan and Katie, and they are producing music. I saw them in Music Fest in 2015. They were high school kids. And this song was one thing they played back then. And it's just a most amazing song. And they've gone on to do incredible things. Actually, Sav now is backing for Lainey Wilson. So like she's actually really doing quite well. But they're not letting go, obviously, of the Accidental stuff. And they are just tremendous. Actually, Dan, you came to see the Accidentals at Music Fest last summer, didn't you?
Yeah, they were outstanding. Really great band.
We're going to talk about Blair Crimmins. We're going to talk about Dirty Dollhouse. My Morning Jacket, they're one of the ones. This song, Gideon, has a fascinating story for me. Another thing that I love and something I talk about on the show a lot is when a song can create a pure moment, which is where like time stops, nothing else matters, and you're just simply totally immersed in this song. That happened to me. It was the morning of when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans. My daughter was a newborn. She was born in May, so this was like August, and whatever show I was watching was doing like a retrospective of the best live performances on television. And all of a sudden, Gideon by My Morning Jacket came on, and I have a 3-month-old, and there's like mass destruction going on in our country, and all of a sudden I'm like, everything stopped. This music's amazing, and so I just loved that song. It's just such like it's one that absolutely just does it for me every time. Mike Maines and the Branches. He was actually episode number 1 on the Your Next Favorite Band podcast. His song Around the Corner, not only do I find it amazing, but it is about struggling with addiction and mental illness. And if you just simply can push through that and you never know what's around the corner, it might be kind of like a better day, that kind of a thing. So it's a beautiful song, and it actually is kind of like the anthem, if you will, for our Listen to the Dissonance series. Beyonce, Black Parade. We talked about this last year. To me, this song is so amazing because she released it on Juneteenth as a surprise. Like it wasn't a release that was announced. It just came out. It's unapologetically embracing Black culture and Blackness, and I think that's awesome. And then also all of the proceeds from this song go to Black-owned businesses, small businesses. And so I just think, again, if you want to talk about greatest songs of the century, like, again, complete banger, amazing song, but then all of that other greatness that goes along with it, how do you not love that song?
And Beyonce is hitting well.
She is. She absolutely is. I love
She's got 9 right now, which
and
is
still not this one. Like,
yeah, and it's interesting too for a station that Beyonce is not in regular rotation in XPN. They certainly play Beyonce, especially Kristen, but she's not. You wouldn't immediately associate a Beyonce track with WXPN, but the fact that the listeners are all so very well rounded and well listened that Beyonce can have nine songs on the list so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats is the best live band I've ever seen. I've seen them probably 7 times by now, and we'll go see them anytime. And that song, Son of a Bitch, just lit my brain on fire the first time I ever heard of it. So incredible.
Do you know that I heard this story at Noncom? Shout out to Noncom. That they actually had to convince Nathaniel Rateliff to release that as a single because he was afraid of being seen as a novelty act.
Interesting.
And the label made a promise to him that they would not let that happen, that they would continue to push him, and they would, immediately have a
I
follow-up.
can see that concern, but man, is that an
certainly, yeah.
amazing song. And it just reminded me of this is like Johnny Cash current, that song. Like it just sounds like it came right out of Folsom Prison kind of thing. It's just amazing. This is my Radiohead track. I talked about that. It was number 2. The national anthem to me explodes all possible concepts of songwriting. Like it's just like it takes it and just absolutely tears it up and then tapes it back together. And it's like, here you go. How's that sound?
And that's talking about how, Radiohead and guitars and all that.
Right.
That particular song, it lives on one bass riff the whole time. It's almost like a
And a
canned
filthy
song.
one at that.
Oh, it's the best. And then the horns all explode at the end. Did you ever see them play? They played on SNL the year that record came out, and that was one of the ones they did. And they just got the whole SNL horn section in to just explode at the end. And I think it's hard to explain to anyone who wasn't there.
Sure.
Like for that album, for Kid A to come out, to just be like, you don't understand. Like we thought, again, they had already lit the world on fire. They'd already burned it all down on OK Computer. What do they do next? I don't know, but you're not going to have any idea.
Right. And then my number 1 was the Avett Brothers, I and Love and You. So let's bring that in here and then we'll talk about it.
Load the car and write the note. Grab your bag and grab your coat. Tell the ones that need to know. We are headed north. 1 foot in and 1 foot back.
So I do find it interesting. I do think we all picked kind of folky-ish, iconic, massive following bands. Wilco, Spoon, Avett Brothers. And probably, again, their most beautifully selective, contemplative song. For me, the story of this one is not necessarily to dive into the song itself, but I was in a difficult time in my life, even speaking to the actual lyrics, my marriage was ending. And I was traveling for business. And when I travel for business, I'm eating meals with a client. And I happen to not have one. So I'm sitting there eating by myself, just thinking about all these things in a city that I don't even live in. And this song came on in the restaurant. And I literally stood up and I was like, what is this? I was just again, back to the whole world absolutely stopped and it just absolutely owned the moment. And of course, everyone's looking at me like I'm a weirdo. But I was I went in search of what this song was. Because in the moment, you're talking about 2015-ish, they're not who they are today. This was where they kind of started to break through. And that cello is absolutely just giving people wings and flying around the room. I was just holy shitballs, what is this? And I just think that this is one of the most, again, it's the greatest song of the last 25 years, in my opinion.
They're brilliant.
Yeah. It was 2009 when this record came out, because I remember being an Avett fan from Emotionalism, the record before this.
That's true. Actually, you're absolutely right.
Thinking and I loved Emotionalism. Emotionalism is a romp of a record.
Yeah.
They are unhinged.
Correct. I had the wrong year. It would have been more 11 is when I would have heard this for the first time.
So when this record came out and they're working with Rick Rubin and it's all very, very sparse, close mixes and all that, it was an interesting jump for them to make. And I think Rubin got them and they got Rubin, and they were able to make this very, very different. They've never made a record that sounds like this again. And And this song has one of my favorite lines in it, which is, when at first I learned to speak, I used all my words to fight, which is something I think about all the time, especially in a younger era of me where I was all fight and no sense. Now I'm half fight, half sense.
I'll tie our two lists together. I mentioned Nicole Atkins, Maybe Tonight was my number 2. When she was on Too Old, Too New, I think this happened on air. We had like a long conversation off air, and I kind of confused what actually happened on the show and what didn't. But she was telling us the story behind writing Maybe Tonight, and it was all about her friends coming to see her in New York. And Maybe Tonight, it kind of came from that. And the friends she was talking about, the Avett Brothers.
Yeah,
so there you
amazing.
go. Tying those two songs together. And I'll also say the Avett Brothers produced one of my favorite albums of all time, Fixin' to Die by G Love.
Wow.
Yeah.
Here's a little note from Bruce to bring in. South by Southwest, March before this song came out, A&R person played the song and 4 others for me, and halfway through it just burst into tears.
Yeah. It's an amazingly beautiful record. It's funny, the record before is like an unabashed emotional record, but it's all over the place. It's like a young man's record. And I Am Loving You is beginning to, like, you're watching the band, for lack of a better term, mature.
Yeah.
And to be able to like address all these same things in a more direct way. It's those two records are probably my favorite Avett Brothers records.
Yeah.
They also have a live volume 3, I think it is. It's one of my favorite live albums of all time. And it just is like a perfect sampler of, if anybody's like, I want to get into the Avetts, but I don't know where to start. If you just kind of give them that and be like, this gives you a good idea. Check this out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one other kind of overlap there is Avetts have a show on Broadway right now. It's called Swept Away. And actually, one of the leads is Adrian Blake Ensko. He's in Bandits on the Run.
Oh, interesting.
And John Gallagher Jr., he's also a musician, but he also originated one of the roles in Spring Awakening. Anyway, it's actually going to close on Broadway on the 29th. So I'm actually running to the city to go see it this Sunday. And so I will report out on that next week. And I can't wait to see it, because not only to be able to see their music and this great show, but also to see Adrian and John and so on. I think it's going to be a really special day. If you like any of like we talked about before, Avett Brothers, Broadway, all that stuff, and you're within striking distance of New York City, make sure if you can try and go see it. I know the holiday time is a little difficult, but this is your only chance to go see it, as it'll round out by the end of the year. But so there is our number ones. Hopefully you enjoyed those. And we actually now have another special guest, also from WXPN. Here is Mike Vasilikos.
Hey guys, it's good to see you.
Look at
This is amazing. You're showing music videos. You're flying in quotes from the audience.
Right?
Yeah, this is great. Thanks for having me.
It's all Phil. I have no idea how any of that works.
None whatsoever.
But thank you for joining today, and thank you again for all that's going on with this list. You're kind of tasked with kind of shouldering a lot of this, because being the midday person from beginning to end, you're just playing this list, which is obviously a treat, but also a responsibility.
Yeah, since Thursday, all 4 hours of my usual time has been devoted to the countdown, which has been awesome. I love it. I love this time of year. I love doing these countdowns. Get to play stuff that we don't normally play, and also the stuff that we do, like, it kind of just shines in a different context. Like, there's songs that you could hear like 100 times, but in the setting of the countdown, they just sound different, or you kind of get to the, like, almost like back to the first time you heard them type feeling.
Sure.
So it's been fun, and we're gonna keep it going tomorrow. Yeah, we're in the home stretch.
I know it is super home stretch, but let's talk about your top 10. Here it is right here. I understand these are in 1 to 10. So if you want, just touch on these and tell us how you kind of figured out how to limit it down to just 10.
Impossible task. It's funny.
Right?
I was in the car, and I was cursing in the car the other day, because I was like, none of these songs. I should make a whole new top 10 list. Like, why did I put these songs on there?
Right.
It changes day to day, and it's amazing when you get to actually sit and listen to the radio. and these songs pop up, and you're just like, oh my God, why didn't I put that song on there? But all of these songs, like hearing you guys talk about the stories behind them, some of them are personal, just songs that I love. Like I think "Song for Zula" from Phosphorescent is an amazing song. It always kind of puts me in a trance, and I've as time has gone on, that hasn't lost its luster for me. Even when he was at the festival this summer and he played it, that may have been like a clincher for me to be like, I need to include this song because it just
yes, you're in the top 10 now officially.
I just love that song. And LCD, I mean, you could pick so many different songs. I think
100%.
I think we played Home today. There were a bunch of LCD on the countdown today.
Correct.
I think Home was on there, and that was like, those were two that I was sort of toying with. But all my friends, I mean, same thing. It kind of puts you in a trance, but they're just so amazing. And Lana Del Rey. So that for me was like one of those moments, right? Like nobody really knew too much about her. We get a lot of this bedroom pop stuff now, right? Like people making records in their bedroom and what have you. And Lana Del Rey, I'm not saying she's the first, but she kind of emerged from that thing. Nobody really knew. It was a little bit mysterious. And she went right from like the bedroom recordings to like SNL. And that thing, it was like a lot of artists would have crumbled after that. Like they
she's a beast though. She's amazing.
Never came back. And I remember she came to the station not too long after that. She did World Cafe, but she was hanging out and talking music. And I realized like, oh, like she has a vision way beyond what I think a lot of people think right now. And she is a huge music fan. And that was the song that like the world, I think for the most part, it first introduced her. And she's sort of like owned this, slice of the music world, like this dreamy pop stuff, so that was an easy one. Brandy, a lot of people, a lot of songs to choose from. The Story for me was the one you used the term, very similar to the Avett Brothers, right? Like Brandy had a record that had come out before, and it was okay, and there were some good songs on it. But The Story was like sort of like I Am Loving You. It was the moment where she arrived. It was like, she's an amazing story, no pun intended, storyteller, and this song is a monster.
Earlier I was talking about crying during the solo of Impossible Germany when I finally saw it live. I saw The Story back in September in Colorado at Red Rocks when she was backed by the Colorado Symphony Orchestra. And I was a blubbering mess, an absolute blubbering mess.
And happy to do it. Like, it's just like, that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's the song. It's her performance of the song. It's her voice. It's just everything, Kanye,
kind of the opposite end of that spectrum.
Yeah. That was just one for me that, every once in a while, like a song just blows your mind, and that was one that's always for me. It's like, I went back and started looking at a lot of things that I was listening to in the early aughts and stuff like that. And I listened to a lot of Kanye. I mean, like album after album, he was just on a roll there. And I was like, well, what song is it? What song is it? And like, you could go Gold Digger. You could go. There's a million places you could go. And Jesus Walks was just like, I don't know. It felt like to me like this is the one that I don't want to say legitimized them because he had done so much and he continued to do so much. But that was one where I was just mind blown.
Did that happen during your block?
During my block?
Did it air during the midday?
No, Kristen had it. Okay. I heard it in the morning. That was really
because cool. The King Kunta outro into the beginning of Jesus Walks was without a doubt the best part of the entire countdown. It was the best segue.
That was awesome. I was at 9 o'clock. I was listening. There were two moments in the countdown where I was like, damn, I kind of wish I had those. Like that was one. And today, Kaleo played Farewell Transmission, which was amazing too. So
no, that song is amazing. Like that definitely stopped time today.
Oh yeah. I was fortunate enough to see. I know it's not on your list, but I was fortunate enough to see Jason play that song live in the early tour of Magnolia Electric Company, and literally the entire room shut up and listened.
Yep.
You had to. It was amazing. You could hear the floor creak in the Mohawk Palace in Buffalo, New York.
Love it.
So, one thing I read about that song, when Steve Albini passed, you sort of start going down a rabbit hole of stuff and re-listening to things. And I read somewhere that that was done in pretty much one take. And Melina, like at the end of that song, I think one of my kids is screaming. I may have to take a pause. But at the end of that song, when he's saying, listen, he's almost conducting the band.
Yeah.
From the center of the room, which I think is kind of amazing.
Well, here, why don't we bring in your number one, which is Mr. Brightside by the Killers, and you can go check on upstairs.
All right.
And then we'll see you in a few minutes.
All right.
Allow me to just say, this is my prediction for number one.
What was that?
I said, well, Mike's taking care of what he needs to take care of, and this is playing. Let me just say right now, spoilers, this is my prediction for number one. I really think time has...
I think it's going to be in the top 10, certainly.
Yeah. I guess I'm hoping that the Avets, that I Am Loving You makes it up there too.
Yeah.
Why don't we take a moment, what are some other, I think this will be a top 10 song. I gotta figure there's something by Taylor Swift that'll get that high.
Yeah. I'm actually waiting.
So I don't care. There's so much nonsense about Taylor Swift hate. Tough shit. She's amazing. She plays her own instruments. She writes great music. Deal with it. She's great. If it's not your style, don't put it on.
That's one of my shocks from this countdown is with as much as she showed up in the women's countdown.
Yeah.
She's only at 4 songs right now.
Right, but I wonder if they're all in the top 20.
I think she's going to show up tomorrow. I think she's going to have at least 2 or 3 tomorrow. And I think one of them will definitely be in the top 10.
Has to be. I mean, that's predictions.
It was so funny with a band like the Killers. I was a little older when this record came out, so I kind of missed it for me. But I imagine if I'd been 5 years younger, this Killers record would have done it for me.
Totally.
But I was a little snotty and in my own. On my own bullshit at the time. So I remember when this record came out, and I didn't stop hearing Mr. Brightside. I'm just what is with this song? And now with time, I now accept it as a classic. But at the time, I was just man, F these guys. But now I love it.
I think the other thing that's interesting about most of the tracks we've played today is actually, I don't know how to express this, nothing special. They're all 4 or 5 piece bands writing great music. It's the talent that's on display. It's not some sort of unique, catchy, gimmick or something electronic, whatever. And I'm not trying to take away from electronic. I more mean when you go, let's say it this way, every single one of these bands would go sound just as amazing, if not better, live.
Yeah.
They can reproduce this sound 100% because they're just that talented.
Yeah. Mike's back.
I'm back. Sorry about that. Live radio, folks.
Live radio.
That's right.
Yeah.
And also, here, you like this part. We're bringing in Amanda's comment. Wow, Mr. Brightside number 1's a bold prediction.
Yeah, Mike, while you were gone, I said that, spoiler alerts, Mr. Brightside is my guess for what is number 1 on the
We were just kind of guessing, what might be in the top 10 or in this, top 25. This is obviously...
That would make me happy.
Yeah, this is probably way up there.
Do you win money if that happens, Mike?
Me? No.
Yeah. Okay.
It's all prestige. And also, for those of you listening, if you have any predictions about what might be in the upper end of this list, start throwing them in the chat, or even your top 10 list if you want to throw that in there. Would love to hear from Amanda, from Nicole. Bruce, we have yours. We're going to bring that bad boy up in a few minutes. But Mike, anything else about Mr. Brightside?
Yeah, I was obsessed with this record when it came out. I was
as you should be.
What in the world is this? You know what I mean?
Right.
Who are these guys? They're from Vegas. There was it was. You go back to 2004, and it wasn't in character for what was necessarily
It was definitely unique and different, for sure.
It was unique, and I thought they were from England at first.
I would have guessed that too, 100%.
It felt like an import type thing. And so many 80s touchstones and a little bit of Springsteen, obviously, which they've kind of leaned into more over time. But Mr. Brightside, enduring song. I mean, it's kind of universal at this point. But it's funny. I always loved that record. I was obsessed with it. And then I was actually out in Las Vegas, and I was at this. It was like one of those top of the hotel, like lounge things, and it's like overlooking the city. And we were just having a couple drinks, and they had a DJ, and he was playing a song, and it was like really kind of like slow and like like that. And then Mr. Brightside comes on. And I would never do this, but I was like, what it was way before Shazam. I was like, what in the world is this? So I actually walked into the DJ booth, and the guy's like, you can't come in here. And I was like, I got to know what you're playing. This is going to drive me crazy. He's like, well, this is and he showed me, it was like a remix of it. I'd get the name and stuff like that. But what it did was it kind of extracted the song from like the rock and roll version that I had known. And like, I felt what Brandon was singing like so much more, like just the heartache of the song. And it's just like, oh my God, not only is the song like great to put on like your run playlist or your gym playlist, but he wrote an unbelievably emotional song that's endured. So that's my story on it.
Love it. Well, Mike, thank you so much for joining tonight. And you're welcome to hang on here. We're going to just now off of our playlists here, where we're going to like kind of pick one, maybe a two, depending on timing. But you're welcome to hang on if the kids are in good space.
Yeah, no, I'll hang, but I just want to.
And if you need to just bolt, no worries. Like just
I'll
feel
hang.
free
But
to.
I do want to just say thanks to you guys for for shining some light on the countdown and for what you do in Philly and beyond. You guys do great work.
Mike, here's my big question. I asked Bruce this earlier. What's your most surprising entry that you've heard so far, and what's your surprising omission so far?
Ooh, well, I don't. So I think if I wanted to know what was on the list, I could see it, but I've tried to keep myself away.
Very cool.
Because it's hard to like fake it, when you know like songs are coming. So I kind of, I have my playlist and I see what's coming up, but I try not to look too far ahead of that. So when I'm listening, just like you, I get sort of that element of surprise. So I haven't thought about omission yet, and we still have 100 and some odd songs to go.
Yeah, 126.
Something like that. Yeah. So I haven't thought about omission, but there was one today that like there were a few things. Like Ray LaMontagne's Trouble, I thought would have been higher. It was like 140 something.
Oh yeah, no, that's interesting.
And it was such a big record at XPN. And I feel like a signature tune for him, where I thought that would have been a top 100.
Yeah, 179 that came in at.
179. Yeah. Because that's right. Because we just went past 200 in my show, and that was towards the end there. So that was one that I was actually a little surprised that didn't rank higher.
A little higher, yeah.
Yeah.
Here's one of our listeners here is sharing their number one. Amanda had My Chemical Romance. Welcome to the Black Parade.
Yeah. Talk about another band at a time when it didn't seem like rock and roll was really at the forefront. I'm not gonna be one of those people who would be like, oh, it died. It never died. It'll never die. But it certainly wasn't at the height of the zeitgeist. And when that album came out, again, if I had been 5 to 8 years younger, that record would have been absolutely my jam. But I came to appreciate it later, working with younger kids in Rock to the Future, where that record is almost classic rock to them now. And the amount of love that like kids who are 16 right now still give MCR is amazing. So,
Dan, it would have been your what? Your jam?
It would have been my jam.
Your what?
No, I feel like I'm not contractually obligated to.
Okay. But let's get to some music here. We're going to go a little bit quicker here since we're already like a little bit past time, but definitely want to sprinkle some additional tracks here. I would like to pick one, and I love, again, this was one that was introduced to me. So Nate, I'm going to pick off your list.
Yeah.
And I love this track by The Roots.
Oh my God. Yeah. So Water. That's one of my omissions, by the way, Mike, is I can't believe The Roots are only on this list for the Seed 2.0. Like that kind of really shocked me, especially being a hometown favorite. I really thought there would be.
Let's see if we can bring in some good juju for them. We'll play the track and then you can talk over the top of it in a little bit. But here, enjoy Water by The Roots.
I like it. So Water is off of Phrenology. Phrenology coming right after Things Fall Apart. You know, they win a Grammy. They're kind of the critical darlings, and this is their follow-up. And in the middle of it is this song Water. Ben Kinney is in the band at this point, who went on to play in Incubus. But the thing about this song that really strikes me is not just the incredible lyricism of Black Thought throughout the entire thing, writing about Malik B, a former Roots member who, had his troubles, left, ended up coming back for a few songs later on, but then tragically passed away in 2020. But for me, it's all about the outro of this song, which turns into like a 5-minute free jazz experiment. With
No, you're right. There's a different, longer version of this song that I just couldn't bring in here, but like it's brilliant. It's amazing. And
to me, like, Water is the song that perfectly encapsulates everything about the Roots that I love.
Yes.
It's not just the emceeing, it's not just the music. It's kind of the experimentation and everything. And I don't know how many people know this, but shortly after this, they did Tipping Point. Which was them trying to go and make a pop record, essentially, and it didn't work. And then what they were going to do, Questlove was actually talking about bringing in strings and orchestration on the very next album, and John Bryan was going to produce it, and then Kanye snaked it right out of him from underneath him for late registration. So we almost had a John Bryan Roots album, which is one of my great what ifs of all time, because
it needs to be a Netflix show.
It's one of those things that, like, it's not even like anything was recorded, but I cannot imagine what that would have birthed.
Right. Well, Nate, why don't you pick off Dan's list?
All right. What did I pick? Do you remember?
Ted Leo.
Yeah. Oh, Ted Leo. Oh my God. Of course I did. the stupidest thing in the world. Yes. I picked this for you to talk about more because I was obsessed with this album when it came out. And then there's a single that he released, like an EP single, Tell Bulgary's Dead, where he does a bunch of the songs, just him and a guitar, which just is everything I ever wanted my music to sound like, but never could get it to, because I'm just not as good as Ted Leo, sadly.
He's the reason that I stopped playing acoustic guitar when I played solo and just played a plugged in semi hollow body guitar, because I watched him do it. And I'm like, hell, man, if Ted can do it, then and I probably like 50-50 of seeing Ted solo and Ted in the band, and both satisfy me in the way that they need to. But Ted solo is absolutely something to be seen. I saw him open up for Amy Mann at Union Transfer just by himself. And I was just like, I could go right now, but I won't, because Amy Mann is going to play. But I could go. Like, if Amy Mann came out and said, like, I can't play tonight, I would have been like, oh, it sucks. But hey, I saw something.
Right. Well, let's listen to Where Have All the Rude Boys Gone by Ted Leo and the Pharmacists. So good. Here's the other funny part about this, and you'll love this. So when I'm getting the videos, you can get things at 1080, 720, I could only get this in like 280. Like, I was like, but then I was like, that's perfect.
That is actually right on brand.
He probably made that happen. Let's throttle that down and make sure it sounds like utter garbage.
I talked about this with Spoon's record, but I'll talk about it with Ted Leo too. This is like the scruffiest sounding record ever. There's nothing like pristine or shined up about Hearts of Oak. This record came out in 2003 on Lookout Records, which is famously known as the record label that started Green Day, West Coast punk label. But Ted Leo, to me, he is punker than punk. Like, he is the most
right
punk thing out there. And I'm not talking about aesthetics or music style. We all know that that doesn't mean anything.
No,
but like in terms of ethos and how he does business, there's no one more punk than New Jersey's own Theodore Leo.
And Das Pharmacists.
Yeah. And this record is this one and the one that followed it, Shake the Sheets, are my two favorite Ted Leo records. And this one I love because the songs are they're so intense, just like this. They're presented in a very DIY punk rock way. It's not particularly shined up. It sounds like a Fugazi record sometimes. It's just like
amazing.
It's
that's so perfect.
It's like we didn't shine this up. That's what the guitar sounded like. That's what the drums sounded like. We maybe turned vocals up a bit at some point. And the thing I love about Where Have All the Rude Boys Gone is that it's this quick little tune. It is absolutely a love letter to two-tone ska, which is a style of music that has influenced me as much as.
But it's even like more. It's more than that. Like that sounds like something that could have come out of like 1998, like just college radio. Like it
wasn't far off,
right? No, but I mean, like it's not just two-tone ska. It's got depth to it. Like this.
Sure, but it's an absolute love letter to the Specials, the Selector, like all that stuff. And maybe a few years before this record came out was when I got real in depth into like that two-tone English era of ska, which will probably be my favorite era of ska. I'm a big fan of the Originators, and I'm a big fan of the third wave stuff in the 90s because that's kind of how I found my way in. But like the first time I heard like the Specials or the Selector, and think to yourself like, wow, listen to this music. This was the biggest thing. And again, if you're wired a certain way and you hear it at the right time, then like that's going to be like a touchstone for you for the rest of your life. So then for Ted, a few years later, to like write this love letter to this style of music and these people who were part of a very, very short, specific, footnote in music. That's it's up there for me.
I'm going to throw this question around to all three of you because, I guess two of you, because Dan just answered. Did everybody here have a ska period? Because I was obsessed in the 90s. I had a ska band. We never actually recorded any of the songs we wrote, but they were called Captain Nish and the Piney All-Stars. But anyway, Mike, Phil, did you have a ska?
I did not.
Not huge. I was kind of into some of that like Sublime stuff in the 90s and Adjacency and stuff like that. But I'm a huge Ted fan, and when I said before, I had that moment where I just cursed my list, and I was like, "Why did I put this one song that I really regret not putting on there was Me and Mia, which leads off Shake the Sheets, which was the record that followed that, which is an amazing album too." And he came to Philly earlier this year. It was one of my favorite shows this year. He did Shake the Sheets.
Were you there? I was there.
Yeah,
I didn't know you were there.
Yeah, it was killer.
We could have shook our fists and sang every word together.
What was your other
Rude Boys, right?
Yeah, he finished the record and he goes, "Okay, now we're done with the record. Now we're gonna have a show." But because the record itself is only about 40-something minutes long.
What were your number 11?
I had too many.
So if Ted Leo was 11 for you, like what was number 11 for you on like the one that came off the list that broke your heart?
There was a bunch, but like I started to do that thing where I overthink it because I was like, there's no way that some of these songs will ever get picked by anyone else other than me. But like, where is it?
I deleted my list. I thought I still had it.
Yeah, because I have it written down. Oh, so like, there were some fun songs that showed up in the countdown, but I had the Nate Roos's band Before Fun, the Format, have an album called Dog Problems, and there's some songs on there that are absolutely phenomenal, and I couldn't settle on just one, so I just
you gave none of them.
Yeah, exactly.
My 11 was Rat Boys.
Oh yes, yeah. Childish Gambino, Sober. That was another one that was a hard one to pull off, but and then Gambino showed up like on the countdown, and I was like, damn, people might have voted for it. But you know what? I thought about doing an all Philly list. And just to challenge myself.
Yeah.
But I didn't do it because I'm a coward.
Because I'm a coward. All right, Dan, you need to pick one off my list.
Oh, okay. I believe that I picked the Dirty Dollhouse track.
You did, and this is going to be quite the opposite. So if Ted Leo is like the raw punk-esque, just we're going to let this go at, again, like we talked about, the lowest volume. To me, Chelsea Mitchell of Dirty Dollhouse has the most beautiful, clearest voice you will ever listen to. And to me, also, anybody who hasn't heard this song will now listen to it and add it to their top 10 of the last 25 years. Here's the song, Hollywood Love Song.
Do you remember when you were in love with another? 'Cause I don't remember anyone other than you. Do you pretend to have known at the moment like I do? 'Cause I can't imagine anything better than you. Pick me up after my shift at the diner and walk me through Chinatown. I know a bar host and that
I kind of say this every time too. Like, if you told me this was Roy Orbison's daughter, I would believe you.
Yeah. I love that her bookstore is featured largely in this video.
Right.
Yeah. I was fortunate enough this year to, not very long ago, last month, to interview her in the bookstore. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we did too.
Yep.
We did it like a week afterwards.
That's right. Yeah.
We were like back-to-back weeks. You and I released it.
Well, she owns the place and she's there all the time. So if you want to find her,
yeah, and she'll sign her vinyl for you. And the new stuff is amazing, but this song will forever live. Again, the other thing I think about this song is, if you told me this was written in 1923, I'd believe you. Like, it's so classically evergreen. It's just so awesome.
Yeah.
And then Nicole Mount chiming in again. Love that Dirty Dollhouse made your list. How does it not? Like, this is just incredible.
I was not surprised because I know that Chelsea sang at your wedding. So I was like, yeah, it makes sense.
Sure. After we exchanged our vows, she played this song. And then the rest of her music, like when we were talking, I approached her to say, would you play our wedding? She's like, hey, sonically, my music might fit for that space, but lyrically, most of it's about breakups and killing people. So do you want that at your wedding? And me and my wife were like, yes, we
Absolutely.
want that 100%. So it was really, really great. But this particular song is incredible, and it was so worthy of the moment, and was honored to have it there.
Yeah, she's an amazing singer, an amazing songwriter, a great front person too. And if this is your first foray into Dirty Dollhouse, then like, oh man, have you got some great records to listen to?
Yes.
Besides just this one.
Oh no, Bruce, we were gonna do your list next. He said he's going to sleep. All right. Let's move over to Bruce's list, and then we'll bring up the rest of the list, and we'll sign off. But Bruce, hopefully you didn't go to sleep. Go to sleep. Nice work. See you tomorrow. Thank you for spreading the love. Of course, we're spreading the love. But let's bring up Bruce's list. Hopefully you're still out there so you can comment on this. This is my favorite. His number one is Outkast. Hey Ya. Like, that's amazing. But then the rest of it: Adele, Rolling in the Deep, White Stripes, Seven Nation Army. Mike, that was on your list too, right?
It was. Yeah.
Beyonce, Crazy in Love, Kendrick Lamar, All Right. The Killers, Mr. Brightside, there's yours as well.
There you go.
Drake, Headlines, Wilco, Impossible Germany, yet again there, Nate, and Brandy Carlisle, The Joke, LCD Sound System, Disco Infiltrator. So let's bring in Hey Ya, and then we're going to talk over the top of that with the rest of the list, and that'll take us out. Thank you all for tuning in tonight, but we are not yet done. But here, enjoy Outkast.
1, 2, 3, my baby don't mess around because she loves me so, and this I know for sure. But does she really wanna, but can't stand to see me walk out the door? Don't try to fight the feeling, 'cause the thought alone is killing me right now.
It really says something that, like, again, for all the like the you know, the legacy that Bruce Warren is leaving, that this is what he's saying is the best song of the last 25 years. That really is quite the testament.
It's up there. It is up there. This song,
it's amazing. It absolutely is incredible.
I was in college. I was bartending and spinning records at the same time. And when the summer this record came out, if I didn't play this song at least 4 times a night, I wasn't leaving there.
You had a revolt, yeah.
Yeah.
When this album came out, my buddy, I was in college. We were home, and we were driving back, or maybe I had already failed out. Maybe I was just going up for the weekend. Doesn't matter.
I already failed out.
Somewhere in there.
The second or third time. But we were listening to it the entire car ride, and we almost got into a car accident because we were laughing so hard at the Dracula song on Love Below. I forget which one it is, but no, like just it's one of those things where, like, you know, it's a double disc, you know, speaker box of Love Below. You get one Andre album, you get one Big Boy album, and it's the last thing they really did other than the Idlewild soundtrack. That was it. That was their farewell as a band, and what a fucking dunk! Like,
yeah.
Right,
absolutely incredible. Wasn't I heard, I don't know if this is an apocryphal story or not, but like they played it for Prince, and Prince just looked at him and said, "Don't you ever put that song out as a single. I've heard that too, yeah." Yeah, and they're just like, "Cool, thanks, Prince." Then they put it out as a single, and because I'm sure he was sitting there, it's like, it's in like 7. Like, you can't dance to something in 7, but you can if you put the 3 at the end.
That's right.
Like, there it is. That's why it works.
You know, Nicole's got a comment out there for Mike that I want you to throw up, because that was a question I had as well, which is absolutely
surprised you didn't have DMB on your list.
Mike and I both showed restraint because there's no Fish on my list.
That's true.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if you saw this one, Nate, but this one took a shot. I'm not sure your number one prediction means much.
Okay, now look here. Okay. Well, what you guys might not know is I'm in a fantasy draft. We fantasy drafted the countdown.
Oh, wow.
I am.
I'm just going to scroll through the list while you chat. Go ahead.
Yeah. But you also had to guess where the placement would come in, and to be able to score points, you had to be within 100. And I am missing completely on some.
To answer the Dave thing, one of the tough things about these countdowns and making these lists are, you know, do you go with your favorite? Do you go with the songs you think you deserve to be heard there? And with Dave, it was like I would be putting such a personal bias over it. Like, I almost felt like it wasn't fair. If you backed it up into the 90s, I feel like I could have made a better case for some of his stuff. But
what are your thoughts on Some Devil? Because I just revisited that this week.
Oh, I mean, that record
good.
is. Yeah, that, you know, it's like, for me, it's always Before These Crowded Streets, I think, was their high water mark. And if you include the solo record, that's probably number 2, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
You know, for me, in my opinion, which did come out like 03, 04, I think, something like that.
Yep.
I suppose I could have gone with something there. But I felt like I was putting my personal way above. As Dan said, I felt like I had to show restraint a little bit.
Now, if I'd thrown one Fish song on, then there would have been 5. And then I would have not just given and then it's like, good album, or can I pick performances from the 21st century? And then it's a whole other list.
And then people are like, stop.
Shout out to my wife, by the way. Shout out to my wife who put Stay or Leave on her list off of Some Devil, which is just an incredible song.
Some other ones that were really, here's Mondo Cosmo.
Nice.
Sigur Rós was on the list. That was amazing. Like, just some of these ones where I'm happy that something got there. Like,
it was also amazing.
17.
It was also amazing because Dan played Sigur Rós, and to hear him try to pronounce the song title was just, they made the countdown for me.
Ooh.
That's amazing.
Go to the website and look. Yeah.
Well, no one in America says their name right either. It's actually Sigur Rós.
Sure.
Is how you would say it in Icelandic. And that record is pronounced, I believe, Ágætis Björn, because I covered that record when it came out on the radio, and we had a pronunciation guide in front of us, like, while we were doing it, because we were huge nerds, and we're like, we have to get this right.
Amazing.
That's an early 21st century breakout right there, because they played an absolutely astounding set at Coachella in one of the early years of Coachella. I believe it was Radiohead who got them on the bill, and from that point forward, I mean, like, talk about the rumor mill. Like after they played that performance, it was like around everywhere. People are just like, I hear they played the most amazing set anyone has ever seen in the history of live music or something like that. Can you imagine like outside in the desert with the lights and then like Ciaros comes on and you never heard them before. You had no idea what was going to happen.
I love that. Like that's back to Music Fest. Like that's what I love about it, where it's just like most times you're seeing somebody you've never heard before and it just completely enraptures you. This 261 track, Lazy Eye, Silver Sun Pickups was in my next 10.
Yeah.
I also love Father John Misty has an excellent like showing on this list, and I love that. Like,
despite the fact that he has pissed off Philadelphia more than probably any other show he's ever played,
What's he at right
buddy.
now? What's he at right now in terms of appearances?
Oh, I have to
Does
look.
anybody know?
Is at 5.
Okay, he's in the 5 club.
But that's
but
still
if you count song length, it's probably like 3.
Yeah, I had his new one today. That was like the one that's like 8.5 minutes.
Did you
time,
also have
like,
Murder Most Foul? You had a
today was the long song. Yeah, today was the long song shift because I had like an 11-minute War on Drugs song.
Oh, nice.
I had a 9-minute Kanye song. I had Murder Most Foul. I had there were 2 more. I forget what they were. It was the Father John Misty, and then there was another one that was like 8 or 9 minutes or something like that. So
I remember on a
Britney Spears Toxic. Holy smokes. That
was today. Yeah.
That's sad. I'm not going to be negative, but like, come on.
No. I remember a countdown. It might have been even one of the early ones that XPN did when they were just kind of where everything could be on the table. And I remember hearing Dan Reed say he was comparing the Philadelphia market to the market he had come from in radio. And he said, man, Philadelphia loves a long song. Cause like there were a lot of songs up towards the top, long Rush songs and Yes songs and things like that. He goes, man, Philly likes a long one. I think
25 minutes of
Sufi on.
There's definitely a joke in there somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm still looking here. Oh, that's good. You have Florence, Foster the People,
Black Keys. This Little Black Submarine song is really, really good.
Yeah. El Camino is a great record.
Like I said, it's like nothing but bangers under 200, and you can't argue with really any of these. Like even if you never heard of the song before, when it comes on, you're like, yeah, I can see why that would be on someone's top 10 list.
I'll tell you all, like I told Bruce this morning, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but if you go to the Wikipedia entry for Murder Most Foul by Bob Dylan, there are 2 program directors spoken to and quoted in the Wikipedia entry. One from the current, formerly from the current, is Jim McGuinn, and the other from WXPN is Bruce Warren. They're both mentioned in the Wikipedia entry for Murder Most Foul.
Yeah.
Jim walked in the studio as I was playing that today. And I think I said this on air, and I said it to him when he walked in. I was like, Timothy Chalamet is so happy he didn't have to cover this song for the new Dylan movie, because this would have been a bitch to recite all the lyrics to. You know, Girl from North Country, way easier, right?
Yeah. Man had a lot of words. Man wanted to say all the words.
Somebody called the studio as it was playing and was like, you got to be kidding me. I thought this would be in the top 10. And I was like, wow. I was like, it just kind of shows you that perception changes, you know, it could for everybody.
Some good comments here. Nicole said, tell us we're music nerds without telling us we're music nerds. And then Matt Morgan said, Mike, I appreciated the advance warning that the long song was coming. That meant I wasn't driving during Murder Most Foul and could watch people lose their minds.
I'm glad you weren't either. Yeah.
We call that in Fish Twitter, we call that a melt. When people start freaking out about stuff, we're like, they're having a little melt right there.
Yeah, and then Amanda says, "Justice for I will possess your heart."
Yeah, edited radio version.
Death Cab's done great on this countdown.
What are they at? They're
9.
9, not bad. I would not have expected them to do 9.
Plus a postal service, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Postal
that's
service
right. And also, Gold Rush, I don't think is one of those 9, and that was in my next 10, 11 to 20. Like that's the funny part is like here we are, one day left. And most of the people who I have on my list that have multiple tracks like Radiohead and Avett Brothers and, you know, some of those there, it's like, but the one I have isn't one of the ones that are on the list. So either I'm an idiot and no one likes it, or it's still yet to come tomorrow.
Or both.
Yeah, I'll take that. I will take that.
Still 130 something songs to get through.
That's right. And here's Nate. He says that no way his number 1 makes the list. How Loud Your Heart Gets by Lucius.
All right. That's a...
But his other picks will make it.
I've only had one pick make it. and that's the Necco case. And I figured that one would be the one that made it. Like,
yeah, I think I'm only one for so far as well. Gideon by My Morning Jacket.
I'm at
You're
3.
three.
Yeah,
But I do think I'll
Japanese
get the Avett
Breakfast.
Brothers. I guess I'm hoping for Radiohead.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, I got Japanese Breakfast, Nicole Atkins, and the Beths. And
Yeah,
the Beths made me so happy. That made me so happy when that played.
That is great.
All right.
Well, anything to promote, Mike? So we will hear you on tomorrow, right? So you will be.
Countdown starts at 8.
Will it finish
right?
during you, or was it going to go past you?
I think I'll go into the evening, right?
I'd be surprised if it finished during my show. If we're at 120 something, 27 or whatever it is. Kristen will start it at 8. You know, so I don't know how many songs we've been doing an hour. It depends on the length.
Depends on the length, exactly.
The long ones.
You know, it can really. There was an.
I think that would have been Amanda's justice for "I Will Possess Your Heart" was that it wasn't the 11-minute version, if I remember right.
Oh, they didn't play the full one.
They didn't. They needed to play that full one because that's dope. But
that bass line at the beginning, right?
So good. So I'm with her on that one.
Yeah, I don't know what time it'll end, but we'll.
So we're gonna get.
I think
Kristen
tomorrow.
at 8.
Tomorrow is the finish line, though.
Right,
You know,
and then Mike is gonna take us there, and then it'll be sometime in the afternoon that we'll reach number 1, and we will
that's
be,
what I would guess.
Loving that. But I want to make sure, Nate, you have your Jawn Before Christmas.
Yes.
Want to make sure we promote that.
I believe that's the 20th, if that's the Friday.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So that's will be my 5th ukulele sing along Christmas live stream. Do it every year. It's so much fun. I also got the Christmas Jawns Volume 3, which is a playlist I do every year of Christmas songs by former guests of the show.
Love it.
This one's a banger. It should be out by the end of the week, but I kind of got preoccupied listening to the countdown. And then currently right now there's the most recent episode of Yo, That's My Jawn is a short interview with Jack Houston, who's an actor you might know if you ever watched Boardwalk Empire.
It's really good.
Richard Harrow.
Yep.
He just wrote and directed his first feature film called Day of the Fight, starring Michael C. Pitt. Joe Pesci's in there, Steve Buscemi. It's a phenomenal film. And we had like a real brief conversation. I threw up as an episode. Of course, Too Old, Too New with Nate and Bruce, our music discovery podcast that brings you something old, something new, something Nate, something Bruce. That's out every week. New episode up tomorrow, probably tomorrow afternoon. And
with
then
this hat on.
With this hat. And then the final thing is Oops All Bards, the D&D actual play podcast. Finally wrapped. Episode 12 is out there. There is one more behind the scenes episode coming out, and I do a lot of stuff.
Nice. And then Dan, we should honor 10 years. 300 plus. What are we, over 330 at this point?
We're 343 this week.
343, and going to be morphing into something else.
Yeah, and I'm keeping that close to the vest. One, because like I'm superstitious and I don't like to name the baby before it's born. But
you're pregnant?
No, it's a Jewish thing where you don't want to speak a name. You don't want to speak it into the world until it exists because. Hey man, shit can happen. But I am in the planning period of what the show is going to look like in 2025 as I proceed to spend what will probably be at least the next couple of years in Southeast Asia. So I'm in talks. We're going to figure something out. But I'm wrapping out the year. I'm going to do my year end the last week of December. It'll probably be similar to previous years where like I'll call some people and have them record little messages. Mr. Vasilikos, I will be bothering you about that at some point. And I've got a few more guests in the pipeline. I've got people trying to schedule me in early January. I am on the fence about whether or not the end of the year will be the end for a brief period while I get my transcontinental shit together. But I don't know. I'll probably
Transatlanticism.
Yeah, I'll probably end up doing episodes right before I get on the plane. That sounds like me.
Love it.
Yep.
But wanted to honor just simply the legacy that you have there at a minimum, and such a great thing. And actually, the most current episode, the one with John Fay, is so cool.
It's fun. We did that live. We did it live.
And then it brought in some other stuff too. I think people should check that one out. And John's music is amazing. We also had, so last week is our Winter Wonder Jam week, and so we also bring on prior guests to do Christmas music or holiday music, I should say. It doesn't have to be Christmas; it could be just seasonal. So the episode from last week is on demand. It's there either as a video or a podcast. It's really cool because I think 9 of the 11 tracks are all original. So like it's not like covering the tired old Christmas music. It's
cool.
actually
Original
more
holiday music.
right, more current and just more thoughtful because it's what these people wanted to write about. So I really, really like when we get original tunes, and so that's very cool. So that's out there, and we're going to release some. So on Friday night was our live in-person Winter Wonder Jam here in Bethlehem, and so we recorded it, and we're going to release some either a track or a highlight from it or whatever next week. So stay tuned for that. And other than that, hope everybody have a great holiday.
Yes.
And Mike, any parting thoughts for the guests?
Nah, just thanks for having me. Thanks for the support. Love what you guys do. Keep it up, and happy holidays, guys.
Yeah, I can't wait to tune in tomorrow to hear the rest of the top 100 or so. It's going to be so cool. WXPN.org, right?
XPN.org.
XPN.
No W.
No W. All right, XPN.org. You can listen to it right there for free. So just tune in that way, and let's see what's in the top 10.
Let's say goodbye to everybody.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Your Next Favorite Band / 25 O'Clock Podcast / Your Next Favorite Jawn, favorite this, that, and the other thing. We'd like to sincerely thank Dan Drago, Nate Runkel, John Batiste, Mike Vasilikos, Bruce Warren, Nicole Mount, everyone in the chat, and all of the bands that we featured here today. We didn't get your approval to play your music, but we're doing nothing but commentary and telling you how amazing you are because you're in our top 20.
Fair use.
Exactly.
Fair
It
use.
certainly is, but at the minimum, we're trying to say that you're in the top 10 tracks from the last 25 years. I think that's amazing. So there will be links in the show notes to many of the things that we talked about here today, and definitely check out the Jawn Before Christmas. Check out all of the shows that are on the channels here, and certainly, obviously, go to xpn.org to go listen to the remainder of the countdown tomorrow, and then just simply check out all the tracks that are there. As always, our hope here is to bring you your next favorite band. If you happen to tune in tonight because you were already a fan of anything we were kind of promoting leading up to this show, thank you so much. We hope that you liked what you heard and what you saw, that you might give us a like and a subscribe, and that you would allow us to introduce you to your next favorite band in a coming week. Or nextfaveband.com is all of our prior interviews. You might find your next favorite band is already out there. If you need any help navigating that, we always love to do that. So send us a note, tell us what you like, and we'll be able to point you in the direction of a good episode to start with. Hope to see you at a live show soon. And definitely tune in to xpn.org tomorrow for the remaining 120 or so of the 885 greatest songs of all the last 25 years.